Hey gang, Scott Davenport here. So I got this question from Jack. He was one of the folks that came out to Death Valley with us for the workshop earlier this year. And he was asking about the room setup I have for post-processing, if I had any suggestions for a good environment to process your photos in. I thought that'd be an interesting vlog. So here we are, and let's go run down the list. So there are a few things, but overarching, I think the advice I have is to keep things consistent. So some type of consistent environment, because that's what's going to give you more predictability in your post-processing. So with that said, a few tips. Number one, don't have direct light falling on your monitor. So in this room, I have the two studio lights, which are turned on right now for video recording. Those will go off because they're very bright. And the only remaining light is just, a typical ceiling fan and has a dimmer on it. And I'll keep that, relatively low key, just enough so I can see around, not trip on anything. But nothing is going to be directly falling my monitor. That's at least 2 feet set back from where I'm sitting. I would not want to put my desk directly underneath that light source, because that will interfere with how colors are being shown to my eye. And the second thing, speaking of colors, is using some type of color management system, a monitor calibrator. I use one called a spyder from Datacolor. There's another one that's popular from xrite, which I've been meaning to check them out as well. And using that to get a good color balance on your monitor. They do tend to shift over time. I'm a Mac user. The Apple ones are pretty good, even out of the box. The shifts I see are pretty subtle, but I do need to calibrate every few months just to bring things back into order. And the calibration will also help with any color casts your room might have. So the walls in this room are, an off yellow color. That's going to be throwing out a bit of yellow light. And so that color cast is bouncing around and hitting my eyes and my monitor and everything else. So toning that down or reining it in with color calibration is helpful. And then the third tip I have is also related to your monitor. It's don't have it set too bright. Out of the box, the monitors tend to be very bright. And they look great if you're watching movies or looking at photos and so forth. But for processing, if it's very bright, you might not be addressing the shadows correctly, or maybe you're pulling in the highlights more than you need to because the monitor is too bright. So I tend to keep mine right about middle of the road, and that works out quite well. And then when I print, if you're printing and your prints look too dark, chances are your monitor is too bright. So those three things, put those together, give yourself just a consistent environment. If you're processing daytime versus nighttime, try to draw the blinds or, close the curtains in the room so you're cutting down on some of the daylight that's coming in, so it's not overly bright in the daytime and then way dark in the nighttime in that room. Something for some consistency. It doesn't have to be perfect, but anything that you can do to nudge the needle toward the center is a good thing. I hope you found that interesting. Let me know if you did. Share this with a friend if you think they'll find it interesting, and I'll see you again next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.